So, 2022 has been a lot so far. Personally, politically, and obviously as in the last 2 years in terms of the pandemic. Although I'm wondering sometimes if the pandemic hasn't become this annoying everyday thing that we somehow actively ignore and passively tolerate, like reality TV or social media. Obviously that line wasn't scripted. As you can see, I am not where I usually am, but I am currently in Spain, in a small, cute, sunny little town, although not as sunny today. Anyway, and I'm gonna stay here for a bit. Personally, not a big friend of escapism, though I consider myself a pragmatist, and I consider this decision to be pragmatic, actually, which is pretty much what I want to speak about today. About the importance of taking your distance, and despite currently everything happening in the world, also answer the question if it is even valid to make that decision. In my case, for instance, leave the ever-grey country of Germany and sit my ass into the sun and close to the sea. Hypocrite! Let me give a quick disclaimer before actually getting into this whole topic. This is a sit-down video without any fancy b-roll and any cinematic shenanigans. Reason for it being that for a while now, I've been uploading quite consistently for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks have passed since I uploaded the last video, and I don't have a video. So I've been thinking for quite a while now about a format, about something to introduce to you, which I can create and upload quicker, and I came up with exactly nothing. Because I have standards. In an ideal world, I would only create the kind of films and videos that I really want to make. But it's taken me about 2 to 3 weeks to actually produce one of those. Although that's still being quick, it appears to not be quick enough for YouTube. So every once in a while, I'd like to sit down and speak to you quite casually and personally, and not be the omnipotent voiceover from the realms of online video Olympus. Obviously, that line wasn't scripted as well. What I essentially mean to say is that I promise the following things. I will speak to you casually, personally, directly, intimately. I will speak about useful and relevant things and do so in comprehensible fashion. And I will use all the time that I save from creating a video like this to put even more effort into the really good ones, so that we both, or actually hopefully you the most, get the most out of it. Did that make sense? I hope so. Anyways, if you consent, then I hope that we together will grow the channel to the size that you claim it deserves. Just wanted to point it out there. Your comments, not mine. But I agree. Okay, back to the topic. I've been back to Germany for over 2.5 years now, and I've spent except for occasional getaways, about 90% at home. And what I've realized is that winters in Germany suck. Really badly. Spending time with friends and family is lovely, but apart from that, Germany throughout the winter season is just cold and grey and dead and lifeless, and it stays like this for a significant amount of the year. Second thing, I always knew that there was something going on, or I always felt that, but it was only when traveling that I've realized that I actually have an anxiety. Before that, I didn't have a word for it, and I think I also wasn't self-aware enough to actually realize it. I just thought being anxious was kind of normal, I guess. And I am anxious I have serious anxiety, tight chest, racing thoughts, restlessness, sleeplessness, unannounced panic, all the things. It is physical. The pandemic has not really helped with it, and war in Europe, as you can imagine, has not as well. Yet, every time I get anxious, I feel fucking guilty and terrible, and just like an idiot, because, let's face it, I am fine, I am good. But there are people out there who are suffering through the incomprehensible. Yet I cannot change how I feel. And I reckon there are people out there who might actually feel something similar. But when you don't know what that feels like, it seems pretty easy to take moral high ground and kick down on the emotionally compromised. Telling people to put themselves up by their bootstraps is not helping anyone. And I want to emphasize that having full-fledged anxiety is not the same as being worried, because that's being worried. At the same time, I want to make clear that using emotional fragility as an excuse to become ignorant is just as terrible. Or to put it bluntly, it's just as fucked. It's definitely not the road to resilience, and it's definitely not the path to happiness. This is just another dead end in our struggle for emotional equilibrium, which is fancy for balance. But I like fancy. So why did I leave? Why did I take my distance? I wanted to decide very consciously what to be bothered with and what not. Taking the current state of the world as well as geopolitical disruptions within Europe and beyond into account definitely is part of what I want to be bothered with. Being flooded with fatalistic media headlines, morbid humor, Eurocentric feel-good propaganda, as well as cynical predictions about the near future of humankind based on literally nothing but opinions, although camouflaged as realism is not. And it is really, really hard to fence yourself off from that if you don't have the personality for it and if you don't bring the resilience for it. Like being surrounded with people who continuously broadcast what I've just mentioned, your social media filled with it, like that's hard. Reasons for anxiety just seemed omnipresent. And I'm aware that it's not necessarily happening on purpose. I'm aware that people do not necessarily mean harm, except for the media. They're the devil. Birds aren't real. Spread the word. It's just that when I say that I feel anxious and that I don't know how to deal with this lifeless winters in Germany, I don't mean it in a way like, oh, I wish I'd be somewhere else right now. But what I'm trying to say is, it's taking a mental and physical toll on me, and I feel unable to remain a functional human being. But the outlook of getting away, of making some distance between all the things that haunt me, has been a ray of hope within the last months and weeks. And arriving here has proved what I've anticipated. Making physical distance, changing your environment is definitely a factor in dealing with mental struggles. Granting yourself an act of kindness is more than a metaphor. I won't claim that my creativity was impaired before coming here, but it was definitely challenged, as was my work ethic, my workout motivation, well, pretty much everything. And it was only after arriving here that I realized how poorly I was hanging in there. Where again, hereabout, I'm flooded with energy, motivation, and ideas. And that has not necessarily to do with changing my physical environment, although maybe a little bit, but I think it rather has to do with the fact of introducing an action of change. People say that I forget to smile sometimes, so here's a smile. That was probably creepy, I'm sorry. And I am aware that I might or even must sound hypocritical, but there just seems to be no benefit in compromising my life unnecessarily when I have the means to do better. And I'm also aware that this is coming from a somewhat privileged position, although I want to mention that this is not a luxury vacation, like we just change the place we work at. It is not a vacation. And from my point of view, it's like not even a rationally sound and efficient decision, at least not in economic terms. But it feels worth it. And it's not like I don't want to be able to deal with all the things that are happening in the world. I definitely want to. It is just that I lately couldn't. Taking some distance is necessary to gain perspective. Not necessarily a new perspective, but a fuller, richer, wholesome perspective. As long as you don't look away, as long as you don't turn your back, I believe it is absolutely valid to take your distance if you must. So, that was a bit different. A semi-philosophical analysis of a fairly simple question. I wasn't looking at the script. I want to add that obviously not everybody, even when living in a developed country, whatever that is exactly, not everybody is in a position to make such a decision. Although I want to mention that I've made quite a lot of uncomfortable decisions to be in the position to actually make such a decision. And it's still a gamble at this point. I'm not free of worries or consequences, and I'm saying that because I don't want to sell you kind of a deluded dream of financial freedom with all possibilities and free of responsibilities. I'd rather be honest with you. Yet no matter your situation, if you feel unable to cope with life, I think it is absolutely valid to do something about it if you have the means to do so. Granting yourself an act of kindness is more than just a metaphor. But that's just my humble opinion. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you agree to disagree? Do you think I'm completely on the wrong track and that I'm just a little privileged bitch? Hypocrite. Thanks for watching. Next video is gonna be worth the wait. I promise. Hopefully not over promise. I see you.